Canyon McCann, Fickadim as a man. Long, long ago, and far away, this tale was told, as I tell it to you today. The tale of the Little Beggar. Evening was falling, the sun was setting, the light was pink on the white roofs of Basra. And there walked a tailor and his wife towards their home. And as they walked towards their home, they met the Little Beggar. He was a storyteller, a joker, a singer. And they said, "Come to our house, tell us stories, sing us songs, and we will give you food." So the Little Beggar went with them to their home. He was a poor man, and he entertained them with songs and jokes, and they fed him with white fish. But as he ate one piece of white fish, a bone was caught in his throat. And the Little Beggar fell from his seat, back, crash, on the floor. At first, the tailor and his wife thought this was some kind of joke. But then they looked and he wasn't moving. "Oh, my wife, this little man we have invited to our home, and he is dead. He has choked upon the fish bone. Oh, my wife, what will happen to my reputation as the finest tailor in the whole of Basra? We must get rid of the body." And the tailor and his wife, they picked up the little man and they wrapped him in a carpet and they carried him through the streets of Basra, and it was getting dark. And they called, "Our child is sick, our child has the fever," so nobody would come near. But there was a woman. "My master, he is a doctor. Follow me." And they followed her to the doctor's house, the Jewish doctor's house. And up the steps outside the house they came to the door. And at the door, the woman went inside, and the tailor and his wife left the body of the Little Beggar outside the doctor's door at the top of the steps, and they took the carpet and away. And the doctor, and now it was getting dark, he came out and he didn't see the body of the little man, and he stumbled into it and knocked it down the steps to the bottom with a crash. The doctor went down. "What has happened?" "Oh, my wife. My wife." The woman came from the house. "This little man has come to me to be treated, and I have killed him. I kicked him down the steps. What can I do?" He picked up the body and took it inside, and he had a plan. Because in the next house there lived a Muslim. And he was the steward of the royal kitchens. And in his backyard he kept flour and sugar for the royal kitchen. He dropped the body of the Little Beggar into his neighbour's yard, so it was leaning against a bag of flour. And at that moment, the steward of the royal kitchen was coming home. He heard a noise. "What? Rats again? Eating my sugar? I'll have them." And he took a wooden stick. He went into his backyard and saw the shape of a little man leaning against a bag of sugar. He went and struck him on the back. The body slumped to the floor. "Oh no, this little beggar man, this poor man, just come to take a little sugar, and I have killed him. What will happen to my reputation? I, the steward of the royal kitchens. I must get rid of the body." And the Muslim, he picked up the body of the little beggar and went out of his house along the dark streets, through the dark alleyway towards the canal, where he would throw the body. But as he came along that alleyway, he heard coming in the opposite direction the singing, the loud singing of a Christian who had been drinking too much alcohol. "Oh!" And he lent the body of the little beggar there in a corner, dark, and made his way back home. Now the singing Christian came closer, laughing and singing, for he was so drunk. And when he saw this shadowy figure, he said, "Oh, you've come to rob me, have you?" And he seized him by the shoulder and started knocking his head against the wall. "Officers! Officers!" called the Christian. And along they came, the night watchman. "What are you doing?" "You have killed this little man. You, the moneylender, the Christian who has worked with the Sultan all these years, have murdered a little man in the street, a beggar. You are arrested for murder." The next morning, at dawn, in the heart of Basra, in front of the Grand Bazaar, there assembled a crowd. Before them sat in a chair the governor. Next to him, upon the throne, the Sultan. Next to him, upon a table, the body of the little man. Before him stood the Christian moneylender. Behind them, the people of Basra. "You," said the governor, "what have you to say for yourself? Did you murder this beggar?" "I did." "You who have lent money to the Sultan on many occasions, what should we do with you?" "You should punish me." "The moneylender must hang by the neck until dead." And the moneylender was taken to the scaffold, and the rope was put around his neck, and he prepared to meet his God. The crowd was silent. Then one person spoke. "He's innocent. Set him free. You should punish me." "What? You should punish me?" And there stood the Muslim. "It was I who killed the little beggar. I left him there in the dark alleyway, but I found him in my backyard and I killed him with a stick. I was the one who killed him. You should punish me." "Is this true? You who have looked after the food for the Sultan all these years?" "Very well. The steward must be hanged by the neck until dead." And the steward was led to the scaffold, and the rope was put around his neck, and he prepared to meet his God. And the crowd once more was silent. Then suddenly there was a cry. And you know what he said? "He's innocent. Set him free. You should punish me." "What?" And there stood before him the Jewish doctor. "You should punish me. It was I who killed the little beggar, not this Muslim neighbour of mine. I left him in his backyard. But he was already dead, for when he came to me to be treated, I kicked him down the steps. I am the guilty one." "You," said the governor, "the doctor, kill one of your patients. You who have treated the Sultan and cured him. There is no choice. The doctor must be hanged by the neck until
he dies.
Until dead." Now the crowd were getting ready, impatient, finally, for an execution. The Jewish doctor was taken to the scaffold, the rope was put around his neck, he prepared to meet his God. And at that moment, from the crowd, there was a cry. Are you ready?
Yeah.
He's innocent.
Kill me.
Set him free. You should
Kill me.
punish me. And from the crowd there stepped who? The tailor. You should punish me. I was the one who killed him. He came to my house and I fed him with a fish bone. But he choked upon that bone. He was already dead when I left him in front of the doctor's house. You, the tailor, you who made this very golden robe that the Sultan wears today? And you know what the governor said. The tailor must be hanged by the neck until...
Dead.
And the tailor was led to the scaffold and the rope was put around his neck. And now the crowd were impatient. I mean, they wanted somebody finally to die. And as they prepared, and the governor was ready, and the Sultan was ready, and the whole of Basra was ready, they heard a voice. And the voice said, "He's innocent. Set him free." "Enough," said the governor. "The man must die. Someone must pay for this death." But there before him stood a little old man with a long grey beard, and a turban on his head. And in one hand he carried a small leather bag. It was the barber. And he opened his little leather bag and he took out a pair of tongs and a little pot of ointment. And the barber said, "There is a mystery to this death. And the mystery is that the little man is still breathing." And he went over to the table, and sure enough it was clear that the chest of the little beggar was rising and falling. And he took from that pot of ointment a fingerful, and he spread it onto the throat of the little beggar. And then he took those tongs and he inserted them into his mouth, and he pulled out the fishbone. said the little beggar as he sat there. "Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, I can breathe. You have saved my life. There I was all this time, thinking that I was going to die, and I was choking on a fishbone, but now it is free. You tried to save me, I know. First, you kicked me down some steps, and then you knocked me on the back, and then you struck my head against the wall. It didn't work. But now you have plucked that fishbone from my throat. I am alive. Oh, how can I thank you all for helping me? This is extraordinary." The Sultan himself stood. "Never have I heard such an extraordinary story as that of the little beggar." The little beggar said, "There are stories which are more extraordinary, and I am a storyteller. And as you are all gathered here, as a way of thanking you, I will tell you some of my favourite stories."